guess just to kind of finish it off, like what would you tell either a mother or a father um that is in a custody situation? What would you tell them um on how to on why it's important to co-parent or why they
Mm-hmm.
should co-parent? What would you tell that person, whether it's a mother or father that is either fighting for the child to be away from the other parent trying to help or
Mm-hmm.
trying to be in that child's life or complicate things? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell the person complicating it to grow up, but my therapeutic brain would, of course, try to understand where that person's, I don't know what word I'm trying to use, like where that person's, like, I guess either whether it's, aggression, or I feel like a very common word is bitterness, is coming from. Or maybe they're, is it, do you want to be with that person that you don't want to be with you? Or you just, like, what are you angry at, I guess? Like, what is causing you to put all of you through such this turmoil? And hopefully then that person can stop. But that circles back to my point earlier of, like, who's going to get that person to stop what they're doing? Because it doesn't, sometimes people don't have people in their life to call them out on their shit either. Because, it's very, oh, girl, you doing the right thing. He a bum. Fuck him. In reality, it's like, no, bitch, you need him. Figure it out. And that goes for, whoever's the bitch. But
Right,
you've got to figure it
yeah.
out. And, like, I think I can say this coming from a person not in this situation, but just, that it can be a lot more simple. It's just, unfortunate that people don't make it. People make it like a million times more complicated in the context of that, going back to that person who's doing this. Because that's the thing. If you and your co-parent just wanted to go to court and make it like, 50-50 and or whatever you wanted to do, like you get him this days or whoever, like whatever, custody you want to do, that's fine. Because then it keeps everyone accountable. But in my mind, I'm like, well, why can't we just be accountable without the legal, like without the courts and all that? Like, why do we have to have that whole messed up institution be in our business?
Right.
It really should just be like, oh, hey, like, crap, I've got this, forgot about this thing. Can you pick up? Like, it should just be like, you should be conversing with that person daily. Like, they should be your best friend. Because regardless of how your relationship in the future hopefully changes with that person who is being difficult, like that also adds in a lot of forgiveness, a lot of, it's like people unfortunately continue to make things so complicated, then it like having a friendship is then impossible.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I think, yeah, it's really hard to kind of formulate like some like, statement, because my head just keeps going back to that person who's like the stop sign person who is just not willing to keep moving forward.
So, let's end it a different way then. What would you tell that person? What would you tell that person to try to help them realize the issue?
Well, one, therapy, and two, like I'd ask them, like in therapy we call it the miracle question, and it's like, if you were to go to sleep tonight and you were to wake up and your life was, and this is like a fantasy, which I always really prompt with people because it's not rational, but it then kind of, we can start from this irrational point and then get us to a point of like still then getting some of the things we want. So if you were to go to sleep tonight and wake up and your life was like picture perfect or whatever, you had all of your dreams came to in every context of your life now. So this is big picture here, baby. Like, what would that look like? So what would your relationship be with your kids? What would your relationship be like with your significant other? What would your relationship, or just like I said, job, money, house, car, friends? And then you scale back and realize, and then you become rational.
Wow.
And people usually have a real, like, usually they don't answer that session.
I was just gonna ask you.
So they
do
usually
they answer that session?
So it's funny because the people who do right away, I ask it again later because I'm like, you didn't give that no damn thought. That's a big, because we're talking fantasy, like we're talking whatever, like even if it's on a reality, like if I wanted to live on a cloud, how then would I scale that back? If I wanted to be a Greek goddess and have all the powers, like then how do I scale that back to still be happy in that context? Wow. That's why it's the miracle question.
Right.
And it's a lot of it's not something I ask off the bat with clients. Like I like to build a lot of rapport because I want people to trust me with their irrational thoughts. Or I want them to be in a place where they're ready to realize that that's that they're being irrational, and how do we scale it back?
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely something to explore more, just in the context of like society, therapy, everything. Just like who gets that person? Like who's calling that person out? So, because I know it's not the court systems because they don't care. And if it's not someone in their life, who is it? And it's not that other person because they're like, it's not their co-parent because they're not listening to them, or we wouldn't be in this situation.
Wow. Actually, that is deep. I actually love that miracle question.
Oh, it's great.
Because it makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like me, like I'm a mentor. So one of my questions I usually ask my mentees is, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? And they answer me right away, no. It's something that you need to go home, figure it out, go to your drawing board.
Yeah. And the thing, like it's like why I like that question a little bit better is just because it's like, the 5-year plan can be, I think, a little bit, to me, like, oh, I have to make this plan, and it takes out that life throws curveballs at you, which I know, like, you can then mention, but I think it's just like, it's like a lot more pressuring. Like allowing people to be irrational allows them to open up. So I think it's like like you said, it's like how you change. Like that's why the question you asked me stumped me, because it's like, yeah, like how do you change that person who doesn't want to change?
Right.
You don't necessarily, but it's like, to me, it's like, it's not an option not to change that person.
Right.
Because we need to be better parents.